All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We're recording during the second quarter of Sunday Night Football. I was told that the battle of rushing quarterbacks would be taking place in Baltimore, but apparently it is taking place in New Jersey with Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones running wild at the moment. So we won't talk too much about that game, but we will talk about the Sunday slate, look ahead to Week 7 openers, which I think there are some fascinating lines and some marquee matchups. And then we'll close out with Monday Night Football. But Drew, I'll start by asking you, from the Sunday slate, which is the team that you most change your opinion about today?
Ooh, boy, that's a great question.
Some candidates for you. Chicago, Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay. Yeah, like to the good, Green Bay and Detroit, surely. And to the bad, I think Dallas is at the very top of the list. That was a wild no-show from them at home against a meaningful foe. I think the kind of key takeaway for me today really was mostly just the NFC. The top of the NFC is going to be really, really fun. I thought it was going to be potentially somebody was just going to, there was going to be tough for anyone to really threaten the Vikings, and that they might have like a 2-game lead on the rest of the NFC and walk in the 1 seed. But with how well San Francisco played and them getting healthier and just in general kind of saving their season to a degree with the win on Thursday, followed by what Detroit did today in Dallas, followed by what Green Bay did today against Arizona. Like, we got some really, really good fun teams now in the NFC, particularly the NFC North. Oh my gosh. The NFC North is super, super fun. The NFC South is super fun, Jay. Put more NFC South on TV. You have 3 really good offenses and fun games. Like, we've had now 2 Bucs games in a row that were just like, hold on to your hat, like crazy stuff happening constantly, just really entertaining football. Did not expect that from the NFC South. But I think ultimately that the real kind of standout performance today was the Detroit Lions. They went into Dallas off their bye, and there was some question about whether they could carry some of the success that offense had against Seattle on the front side of their bye, whether they were going to carry that into Dallas and take care of a beleaguered pass rush for Dallas but a strengthening secondary, and they made that look absolutely effortless. The explosive plays, the degree to which their offense had beautiful balance between the run and the pass, able to kind of create space for players to make plays downfield. It was all just magnificent music from that Lions offense. And I don't necessarily even know if I have to take a solid look at what my Dallas number is and whether they need to be downgraded a hair, but or more than a hair. But that was sort of the standout game. And really the afternoon slate didn't have a lot of drama. There weren't really very many competitive games in the afternoon slate. But I think what you saw the Detroit offense do was pretty special.
Okay, well, staying in that division, I think probably the most material or important takeaway in terms of the future of the league might come from the first game of the day at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Where do you rate Chicago now in the context of the NFC after what Caleb Williams showed today and last week?
Top 7, but not top 5.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the case that 4 of the top 6 teams in the NFC are in the NFC North.
I agree.
Yeah. What did you make of Caleb's performance?
He should have had 5 passing touchdowns. And there was a faint whiff of quit about the Jaguars. I don't know that the players are playing necessarily especially hard for that coach at this point in time. The defense, there was a little bit of a lack of effort. The tackling was embarrassing. And the fact that it was as easy as it was for that offense, I think played a bit into game state. Like, when you have that healthy of a lead that early, it's a lot easier for your young quarterback to, be able to make plays outside of structure. And I think, what we're learning about the arc of the improved performance of the Bears offense in particular over this season, I think is a lot. It's tied to Caleb Williams, specifically his progression, but I think it's equally the offensive line getting healthier and being able to protect him. Like he really had virtually no distress today whatsoever. And when he's operating with the clean pocket and he's doing, in structure, he's very good. His out of structure stuff is kind of what got him into trouble in the first 3 weeks. And now that there's less of it because the offensive line is playing better. It's a more smooth machine as far as I can tell you. I don't think we've seen their ceiling. I don't think today was their ceiling. This was like another step forward, I felt like, but I would kind of, I wouldn't take so many positive takeaways from Chicago here, because number one, I do think there are some serious questions about the level of effort of the Jaguars, and then the game state being so favorable. It's kind of a lot of what you've seen to this point in the season with Jaden Daniels, where when you're winning, when things are going well, like you can be a snowball rolling downhill and just let it fly, and that was kind of what the Bears had their chance to do that today.
Indeed. All right. Last NFC North team we'll hit before moving on to the openers. The Packers, who closed, 5.5-point favorites over Arizona and then steamrolled them in a game that was never at all close. Jordan Love didn't look too good in his first couple of games. He looked much, much better against the Cardinals. So the Packers, who right now are staring at their 22-1 Super Bowl number, which to be fair might not be valued just because of their state in the division and having Detroit and Minnesota both having fewer losses than them, and the unlikelihood of them getting a bye. But where do you think this Packers team stacks up in the NFC now?
I think they're, again, also right in that right on the outside of the top tier. I would put them in 4, 5, 6 range, and I would kind of hold a little bit against them, the defense, and they have extreme ability for taking the ball away. Xavier McKinney is having just an absolute standout season as far as being a ball hawk, and but the D-line is still a little bit of a problem, and they had a hugely positive matchup today going up against a Cardinals team that lost their most important player on the offensive line in Will Hernandez, and they were fine, but I think that the offense needs to be as good as it was today for them to continue to win against the high leverage teams, including this week against Houston. So this is, right away, right into the fire for this young team, and in particular that defense tested this week. And I think I wouldn't stop anyone from betting Packers futures at those kind of numbers at all. Like, this is an offense that has a ceiling to score 30 points in a playoff game, independent of their opponent. Like, they have so many different ways to hurt you. Matt LaFleur is a scheming genius, and that offensive line is top 5. Like, they have balance with Jacobs as long as he's healthy, and I think Jordan Love is, certainly has, top 10 quarterback right now, with ceiling to continue to improve as he, continues to get reps. He's still very, very young, very, very inexperienced, and so that this Packers team is absolutely live to win the NFC. But I would still say that. Like this week in particular, I think the market is a little bit higher on them.
Okay, well, we'll get into that in a sec. But this Sunday night, it's a showdown of two teams vying for position in a crowded group of AFC contenders. Catch Aaron Rodgers and the Jets take on TJ Watt and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Coverage starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. All right, Week 7 openers. Let's start off with Texans-Packers, which you flagged. The Packers are 3-point favorites at home against the Houston team that will still be without Nico Collins. The total is 46.5. This is implying that the Packers are the better team on neutral. Do you agree with that?
I don't. I would actually make this game close to a pick. And I think ultimately I'm going to be on Houston here. This, again, like the Houston offense, really didn't have to do much today. They had so many short fields against the Patriots team that just continued to turn the ball over that the Texans didn't have to really lift much of a finger. I don't think CJ Stroud even eclipsed 200 passing yards. He barely even really played. But that said, they have a nice set of weapons, now a healthy backfield to take on a Packers defense that I still need to prove it. And I think this is kind of the bellwether for them in general. And the fact that they're laying 3, I feel like, is quite favorable as far as the price point on the Texans. The +3 -115, I don't think is going to make it to this weekend or to next weekend. I think that's probably coming off the 3. And I'm going to be on the Texans, and I just in general think that having a breakout game from Will Anderson was nice, but the pass rush is going to have to really face a much stiffer test, obviously, going from the bottom 2 offensive line in the NFL to a top 5 offensive line is going to be, breakneck type of adjustment. But there are a lot of fun weapons for both of these offenses. This is going to be a really, really competitive game. And just in general, I don't mind having the points. My total on this one, raw total before making adjustments for either of these teams, is 49. So yeah, this was going to be a super fun game. And I guess I'm not going to get involved in the total one way or the other until we see what the weather looks like in Green Bay, as we are kind of entering the more questionable months of the year.
Okay. Do you have any theory on the Houston offense, which, again, like as every week, like Stroud always just by the eye test looks magnificent. Looks like the second coming of Peyton Manning. And then you look at the stats, and coming into today, he was 15th in EPA. His PFF grade is solid, not amazing. DVOA, not great. And then even today, like he starts off incredible, but then gets very unlucky with the pick in the end zone. He finishes at 0.18 EPA per play and 4.2% completion percentage over expected. So that's good, but just hasn't, it just doesn't seem like the underlying stats ever match the eye tests with Stroud. Do you think there's anything systemically wrong with the offense? Is it just fine and it's just a little bit noisy? Is Bobby Slowick perhaps a little bit overrated and too run heavy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's definitely some truth to that. But I also say that if I felt like they were a fully cooked cake, if this was the finished product, then I'd be concerned. But I definitely think that where we are in the calendar, middle of October, they're winning football games. They are cashing in. Some of it is unsustainable, but not like flashing red siren like fraud type stuff. It's that you have a quarterback who's able to make really good reads and really good decisions in high leverage moments of games. That's awesome. Like, I think that's kind of all there is to it. They put themselves in disadvantaged positions with mistakes like penalties a lot. They put themselves in disadvantaged positions by running predictable, failing run plays a lot. And, I would hope that, once they get to their bye, they're going to have a lot of tape to do some self-evaluation. But like, I'm bullish on the Texans' future in general this year, not only because they have distinguished themselves in the division, which means they're going to have some home games in the playoffs, but they're going to be tested through the middle portion of the season against some really good teams. It starts this week with the Packers. Obviously, they beat the Bills. That was a huge, kind of stepping stone for them. They get a road test now at the Packers. Then they go right to Colts, Jets, Lions. Like, nice little 4-game stretch here for this team to kind of learn how to be their best in the absence of Nico Collins. And then he comes back and you add, that dynamic force as far as a skill position player to what is otherwise a really good group. And I would expect that, this is a team that's going to be coming down the home stretch quite, a fully baked cake. A more complete picture. And if Slowick does not ever learn and grow and continue to evolve this offense with the weapons he's got, then I think it is going to be a humongous disappointment for me in particular, as I'm holding plenty of Texans everything. So I'm fine with them kind of having stubbing their toe at times and going through the growing pains, and I think this is going to be a very difficult team to beat in the month of January.
Yeah, well, someone who's holding 0 Texans whatsoever, I hope they continue to stub said toe. I think the issue for them is if you're looking at futures around to win the AFC, to win the Super Bowl, the current price, like all of those prices need to be based around, or at least heavily baked in, the possibility of getting the 1 seed. And their schedule is just there's just so few gimmies on the schedule. Like you mentioned, like at Green Bay, they're 3-point dogs, even if, we think they should be a little bit smaller there. Home against Indianapolis, right? That's an easy one. But then at the Jets, Detroit, at Dallas. By week 11, Dallas should be in much better shape than they are now in terms of their health on defense. They play, at the Jags and home to the Dolphins in week 15. By that point, you would expect those teams are going to be better than what they're showing now, particularly with Tua back. And then, that's not even to mention week 16 and 17 at KC, home Baltimore. So that's why I think that Like Stroud right now is basically like joint second favorite to win MVP. To me, that's insane. Like he's not as likely as Lamar Jackson to win MVP. But we can talk about that at a later time.
Hey,
so
he's got the opportunity he controls his own destiny, Jay. You talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's in his hands. Like you win those 2 high profile games in the month of December and crown is yours, my friend. So
yeah, the issue is that he's gonna have to beat teams like Detroit and the Jets and the Packers to get into position where he can have those. So yeah, no, I agree. I hope that Stroud loses some games and gets out to a bigger price that is, substantially bigger than the money line parlay of beating the Chiefs and the Ravens later in the season, kind of a parallel to what happened with Lamar last year. But we'll see. He needs to also just play better. Like he needs to start accumulating better stats. Because his stats are clean enough, but they're not really MVP level at the moment. All right, let's jump to the 2 other. Well, yeah, these are the 2 big games, even dwarfing Texans at Packers. Start with Lions-Vikings. Vikings are 1.5 point favorites off the bye in a game that may decide. Well, we'll at least go far in shaping who gets the 1 seed. In the NFC, the Lions naturally you would expect will be without Aiden Hutchinson. But they will be with the rest of their team, which looked insanely dominant today, as you mentioned. This is implying that these are about the same strength teams on neutral, albeit the Vikings with a bit of a bump because they're coming off the bye, and the Lions obviously don't have Hutchinson. Do you agree with that? I was surprised that the Vikings are 1.5 point favorites here.
Yeah, and hey, they're taking money right now. It's getting bet out to 2. That feels like it could be dummy money. I wouldn't be shocked early in this week with lower limits. Sometimes that happens on Sunday nights, but yeah, I'm surprised. I do not like this spot at all for Minnesota. Jared Goff comes from a very well understood system that Sean McVay put together. And when you blitz a McVay quarterback for Goff and now Stafford, you better get home or else he is going to absolutely knife you in the back down the field. And I worry a bit about the coverage of the Minnesota Vikings against what is now a nasty pass catching unit here. And just the rhythm and timing and fluidity and a healthy offensive line. Like Jared Goff is pressing all the right buttons that he's being asked to press, and he's doing it in magnificent fashion. And I don't know that I have high confidence that the Vikings defense, even with extra time to prepare, is going to be able to meaningfully affect the outcome of this game. It's going to be up to Sam Darnold to continue to elevate his performance this year and go score for score with the Lions team like Geno Smith did on Monday Night Football, except find a way to get the last score, have the ball last. And I don't know ultimately if I have high confidence that Sam Darnold is going to do this. I think we're at a local top for the Vikings. I think that the Lions are going to, force a market correction here. And if I'm wrong, then, KOC's takes another step forward in the coach of the year race, and Justin Jefferson takes another step here in the OPOY race. But I got to tell you, I do think that the bye might have a little bit of a chilling effect on these guys, and I don't love this opponent for them coming out of the bye.
Yeah, it's incredible that we have a 1 seed showdown, and I think Jared Goff is clearly the superior quarterback in the matchup. But he did play extremely well against Dallas, I thought. It seems like he has moved past whatever was ailing him in those like super shaky performances to start the season. All right, bit of a better quarterback matchup in KC at San Francisco, where we have the MVP favorite currently, Patrick Mahomes, against the man who was, for a time, close to my heart, the MVP favorite at the end of last season, Mr. Purdy. Niners 1.5 point favorites. The total is 46.5. Again, another one of these lines, which are implying these teams are basically even on neutral, though the Chiefs coming off the bye, albeit to be fair, the Niners have had 10 days as well, so I can't imagine that is a super material advantage. The Niners should maybe be a little bit healthier. We'll see what the status is of guys like Charvarius Ward and the players that went down for them during the Seattle game, including Jordan Mason, the rookie Mustafa. What do you make of this line? Were you surprised that the Niners have opened 1.5 point favorites?
No, I guess I'm surprised it wasn't a little higher, honestly. I know Andy Reid off a bye is always going to catch money. I don't know if you know this, but he notoriously does do well off the bye, Jay. That said, I don't love this matchup whatsoever for the Chiefs. I think the Niners are a really, really dangerous team right now. I know you mentioned a couple of key injuries that they picked up in that Seattle game. Not like I'm not prepared to really move the needle much on the because I wasn't expecting much out of the Niners run offense in this game regardless. The Chiefs run defense is superlative. And the Niners are going to have to get it done through the air. But I do like their weapons up against the Chiefs secondary that I don't think has really been tested to this, to really at all this season. This is going to be a little bit of a rude wake up, I think, for the Chiefs secondary, and the Niners playing with a positive game state here would be just a delay, honestly, because I think Pat Mahomes still needs time to fully bake his cake in terms of his chemistry with his wide receiver, tight end wide receiving core, and yeah, this is a nice spot for the Niners in my opinion. My fair on this one is almost 3. I have the Niners power rated the best in the NFL still. I adjusted them up a bit after what we saw on Thursday, including I'm expecting Ward to be available. Ward being unavailable for that Seattle game kind of spooked me on Thursday morning, for being honest. And I think I get the read that the extra rest will help him. And I also think that the extra time for San Francisco to prepare here is going to be pretty important. Now, Kyle Shanahan definitely outthought himself preparing for this opponent in the Super Bowl last year in a lot of ways. And I don't know that, I don't know that they're going to have a clean, easy time of cleansing the demons there, but I do think that the Niners are the rightful favorite. I like them at -1 right now. And I'm probably going to be laying some alt lines with them as well, just because I don't love this spot whatsoever for Kansas City.
Okay. Well, I hope Travaris Ward is back, because it'll increase the number of good players that the Niners have on their defense by 50%, given that right now it's Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and nothing else. Before we move off this one, last one, how do you think that this new Chiefs, I don't want to call it a revolution because it's too weird, but this new Chiefs offense that is 4-yard A-dot, playing a ton of tight ends, running Kareem Hunt's screen passes, exclusively quick game, and then the occasional deep bomb to Xavier Worthy. How does that, do you think, match up against the Niners and their type of defense?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think the Niners are exceptional tackling. You're not getting free yards with these guys. Fred Warner in particular, anchoring that linebackering core, I think is going to be up to the test of keeping it relatively short yards after the catch over expectation here for the Chiefs offense. And I like their ability to cover deep. Again, I liked the way Mustafa was playing, and if he's out, and day to day, if he's out, I'm going to be a little nervous because I'll be honest with you, I don't have a rating on George Odom.
He's not good. He was okay against Seattle, but he's not the answer.
Okay, well, that scares me a little bit, but no, I like. I think in general this is a fine, good tackling unit. Nick Bosa obviously is an outstanding pursuer, presumably a little bit quicker, than what the Saints had trying to run down Pat Mahomes, and so the ability to kind of just keep Mahomes from killing you on the ground and extending plays. I have faith in Bosa there. So, yeah, I mean, we saw a better Niners defense in the Super Bowl contain these guys for a long time. And I think this is a worse version of both units. But yeah, nothing about the Chiefs offense right now scares me at all.
Okay. I'm a little scared of Patrick Mahomes as someone who needs the Niners to win. I thought Mahomes was masterful against New Orleans.
He was incredible. He was incredible.
The thing is with the Chiefs, right, is that, and with Mahomes and with MVP stuff, is that you think like, oh, this isn't sustainable. Like, they can't keep doing this. I think on merit, Patrick Mahomes against New Orleans should have had 400 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. And it's just the couple bombs to Xavier Worthy, got mugged twice on DPIs. One got called, one didn't. Should have been a touchdown to Juju in the end zone, and it gets tipped. Just bad luck. So I guess the fact that the Saints gave up 51 points to the Bucks perhaps implies that their defense isn't actually that good, and maybe that's not going to be an indicator going forward. Because in theory, if you don't have receivers who can separate, it should be a pretty containable offense in theory. Like, it just doesn't seem like the logic will be able to hold, especially when you're not, it's not like they've got the greatest offensive line in the world and, prime Derrick Henry running back there. They've got Kareem Hunt off the street and suspect situations at both tackle positions. So the interior is perhaps the best in football. We will see. Feels good to be needing the Niners in a big game. They've typically come through for me in these spots, outside of one notable instance on Christmas last year that we will not go back to. All right, we're counting down to the tip-off of the NBA season, and for those of you drafting your fantasy team, get a jump on your competition with a free RotoWorld basketball draft kit. Get all the ranking stats and player profiles you need to dominate your league all season long. Go to NBCSports.com/hoopskit to download today.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay, let's close out with Monday Night Football. Bills 1-point favorites at the Jets. The total is 41. So the line has been trickling back towards the Jets, who I will need to win this game for a variety of reasons. I feel okay about that, hoping that these questionable Bills end up on the wrong side of questionable or are very hampered when they play. But how are you feeling about this game? Do you think that Jeff Ulbrich gets his first win as Jets coach?
I hope so also, because I bet that. And it was largely a bet against the health of the Bills. I don't have any more information than you do for Cooks and Shakir. But I mean, just the fact that those guys matter as much as they do for this offense is a problem. I think ultimately not a lot. The injury report is so long and so complicated for the Bills that it's kind of obscuring the fact that Josh Allen really got hit pretty hard. He was dealing with left hand ankle, which looked like a non-trivial ankle sprain, and head injury. And he's now taking on a Jets defense that he has never really solved. I don't have a ton of expectation that Ulbrich is going to do much differently with the defense than what we were seeing under Robert Saleh, but I would expect that this unit tends to step up at home playing the Bills every single time they play them. So I would lean on that unit and be happy with a bet on the Jets at plus 100. For the Jets offense, the move from Hackett to Todd Downing could be lateral, but it also could be an upgrade. I don't think there's a chance that it's a downgrade. And ultimately, this is so much of Rodgers' fingerprints anyway that maybe if nothing else, it's just a wake up call to a lot of the players in that offensive locker room that they need to just play better. And so, I'm cautiously optimistic that the Jets have a step up performance here. But I'm mostly just betting Jets because the Bills' injuries look absolutely gnarly to me.
Yes, Ed Oliver out as well. And yeah, the fact that Shakir and James Cook, arguably their two best weapons in the pass game, are under some doubt. Thron Johnson is questionable as well. I think it's a big deal for the Jets that they're able to get back Morgan Moses as well, who,
Yep.
is not, peak Teron Armstead or anything, but he's better than Fashanu, who is filling in at right tackle for Moses. So that all helps. Yeah, the Todd Downing thing. He just couldn't find a less inspiring pivot point as an offensive coordinator. Someone who, not to speak of his legal issues that he's dealt with, but in coming from Tennessee, which ran, I think, a very uninspired offensive scheme, just like Hackett. He doesn't use motion, doesn't use any real creativity. In what way do you think that the offense will look different? Do you think that it's just going to be a massive diet of Breece Hall, which to me doesn't sound like a great idea? I want the ball with Aaron Rodgers. I just want it going different places and with different routes and different schemes.
Yeah, I want 20 targets to Garrett Wilson, and I want them a little bit more crisp. That's about all I want. And I think ultimately, if he's able to coordinate anything, getting the wide receivers into better space, then I'll be very relieved. I think in general, this offense should continue to get better with the offensive line and going up against the defense, by the way, that we haven't really mentioned it, but I don't know how the Bills are generating much of a pass rush here. Ed Oliver matters. He's a huge part of this defensive line. Von Miller was quietly a huge part of this defensive line so far this season. Neither of those guys is going to be available. And your linebacking core for the Bills is already suspect in the absence of Matt Milano. I think that this is going to look better just because of the strength of opponent more than anything else. And maybe, when you get spurned at the altar by Art Smith, it's you go right to Todd Downing. That's just the way it goes, Jay. But ultimately, I think it's if this is a pivot to we need to establish the run and Breece Hall gets a lot more attention in the game plan, that's gonna bum me out.
Yeah, I don't love that. I think the Bills, they looked incredible in the first 3 weeks, and we're talking about them as potential Super Bowl favorites. I think it's a lesson that sometimes you still do need to regress to preseason expectations when there was a logical foundation for them. And the biggest logical foundation for any suspicions around the Bills is the fact that they don't have receivers who can separate. And this is just a massive issue. It's very hard to survive if you don't have receivers who can separate. And I guess the best job that anyone has really done around that has probably been Mahomes a couple of years ago, his MVP season. He also had Travis Kelce having the greatest tight end season in history. And he had Andy Reid as his play caller and scheming everything that they were doing. And he had a really solid running back in Isaiah Pacheco. So I just think that with the Bills, that Houston game was the nadir, and it's not like it was a steady decline or anything to get to that point, but it just goes to show that if you have players who can, play man coverage, like Derek Stingley can, then the Bills just aren't going to get open, and Josh Allen goes 9 for 30. And I think that he's probably going to deal with similar issues against the Jets because, by the way, they have Sauce Gardner, who is not even right now the best cornerback on the team. That would be DJ Reed, the way that he's playing. So I suspect that the way this game is going to look is the Bills leaning on the run, whoever their running back may be on the night, and then also the Jets leaning on the run, because apparently that is what they want their identity to be, instead of, their top 5 of all-time quarterback, who has not been amazing, but I also don't think has been terrible by any stretch, and was incredible in that Patriots game. It's 5 games of Aaron Rodgers. We need to give him a little bit of time before we're declaring him to be a failure in New York. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. I'm very excited to see what the Jets look like and just how it looks different. Do you subscribe to the notion of a new coach bounce, that reflects itself materially in playing with greater energy? Or do you think it's just more that, typically when teams are in position that they've had to fire their coach, it means that there are kind of obvious adjustments that need to be made, and then they just get made. It just happens to be by the new guy.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely credit on both of those, but the first one depends on the nature of the team. If the Jaguars let go of Peterson, and you get more effort out of the players, then yeah, there's going to be a bounce. I don't think the Jets were quitting on Saleh. There was something else obviously going on there. So that part of the equation may not happen. But certainly like the fact that like there were clear adjustments to be made on offense, and we should see them. And it happens against the team that's ailing in terms of healthy players defensively. I think it all stews to, what will feel like a bounce.
Indeed. I agree with that. All right. We are done for today. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.